canoe boat, machine boat, and bicycle around the village. You can also observe ancient pagodas. This is indoor GCBT kitchen state. If you want to know more information, you can sub this email. The next Kaya cultural community. We implement in 2 Kaya village and 1 Kaya village. Tanilale and Bambat, Teko. Kaya has many ethnic groups, and why natural scenery is very gacha. You can take a short track around the village. You can feel the panoramic view of the surrounding mountain. You can also visit the Kaya traditional hall. And learning about the fascinating culture of Gabi wooden coffin for one parent. You can taste the Kaya wine, making the rice. You can eat the Kaya barbecue. The first time of the Kaya barbecue before the sunset on the bank of the Seven Lake. This is the everybody. For further more information, we have no enough time, so I quickly. Tandangji areas in Kayin State. We offer VMV accommodation in the last year. Most Christian people are visiting there. No.
So I will introduce I will show the shortly about our CBD project, and there are 9 CBD, and there are 9 CBD sites in Myanmar. We have a short time constraint. This is a poor community. Nyai is a refugee, it's a triangle. ARV dolphin, we have a unique culture. In that we can learn how to fish the with the help of the ARV dolphin. It's a solar is located in Chin State. Mount Vidya is the national ecological heritage site for the UNESCO. Tamarind Lake is a dry zone. We can learn the local way of life in this village. Chadalay is after the tsunami. This area is far from this cyclone and then tsunami. So we need to improve their way of life, creating the CBD site in this area. So, there are CBD sites in Myanmar. They improve and they develop their way, they are manage different way of implementation style. Some projects are developed by the INGO and donated by the development by the RDBs. Some projects are initiated by our government. Some projects are created by their local communities, their own management style. So what are the role of the community CBD initiative? First of all, we have a lot of tourism resources and potential sites, CBD site in Myanmar. So where we went to the as a facility study tool to implement a CBD site to the rural area, and we discussed with the community and we raised the awareness of the CBD in this area. So if we most of the community want to develop as a road, bridge, and infrastructure. So we need to handle aware their community goal with the development of the CBD site in this area. We have a raise of their awareness. And then for the policies and regulations, we hold the national level meeting and conference at least once a year. We invite all stakeholders in the country who are implementing the CBD So we discuss, we discuss and we negotiate with the local people to change our strategy to promulgate the policy and to draw up the regulations such as the sales code of conduct and any regulation. So there are two factors to be a sustainable CVD site. One is the governance and two is the commercial viability. It means the marketing. To link the market as such to the international tourism industry, we organize the fan trick. We invite the national tour operator and media and travel writer to the CVD site to meet the ground handler and to meet the local people to get the information. So to disseminate dispatch the information to the around the Myanmar. So national tour operator he can make a marketing to the international tourism industry, because local people cannot attract and cannot do the promotion and marketing. That's why we organize the fan trick. And then our Ministry of Hotel and Tourism participated in the international and national tourism events such as the IDB in Berlin, Germany, WT and World Tourism Market in London, and Jakarta Trade Show in Japan, and Thai TDM Time Travel Mag in Thailand. We make a press release in this event. We introduce our CBD product to the audience. Thank you. If you have any advice or any suggestion, please contact me with this email. Thank you.
Thank you very much to our representatives from Myanmar. I would also like to point out, I believe you have a lot of brochures. Mm-hmm. So I know there were many sites that I'm sure we're interested to see. So there are a lot of brochures from Myanmar on the registration table outside, which you can take during the coffee break. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I would like to remind our guests again, if you have any questions, please write them down for our speakers, and we will compile all of them for you at the end of the conference. Thank you. For our next representative, I would like to invite Dr. Kontip Phuongphet from Laos. Dr. Kontip Phuongphet is the Deputy Head of Community Development Division for the Poverty Reduction Fund program, which is part of the Minister's Office of Laos. Please welcome Dr. Kontip Phuongphet.
Good morning, everyone. I am Kontip. I'm from Laos, so already introduced to you. It is my great honor that I'm here. It is my first time to be in Phuket. Today I'm going to present you about the community-based tourism. Before I'm present you I'm talking about the community. I'd like to show you the video.
Sometimes we need to travel to release ourselves from chaos and repeated circles in life. my journey embarks at Nam Kat Yolapa, Udom Chai Province, Lao People's Democratic Republic. Here, I have realized how beautiful the trees, rivers, and mountains are. Here, I have realized that obstacles are life's challenge. Here, I have realized our lives are part of nature. Here, I have tried things I have never done before. Here, I have found friendship from new friends. Here, I have realized how beautiful the traditions of the Khmu tribe are. Here, I have realized the sky at night is more beautiful than I ever saw. Here, I have realized that tears are not always for sorrow. Here, I have enjoyed delicious food surrounded by the mountain's embrace. Here, I have fulfilled my life by huge reward through traveling. What about you? Are you ready to reward yourself yet? Nam Kat Yolapa is a paradise and heaven for adventurers.
Okay, this video is present you that quite famous of the place for tourism, and also it's still new. It's new place for tourists. Maybe about 3 years or 5 years ago, they established this place for tourists in the north of our country. You know, that is the one. Lao PDR is landlocked country, as you know, and we don't have a sea. But we in Lao country is rich in natural resources. via protected forest and also the species. Yeah. That's why this is one policy or strategy for develop the socio-economic development of the government of Lao PDR. So now I'm going to present you about the community based. So first of all, I like to, the content is will be here, if you not spend time for this one. Okay, next. The background of ecotourism that we focus on the presentation today. Lao PDR is developed in 1990s. Lao is first opened its border for tourism, and Lao tourism often has potential to create employment opportunity and the income generation. So we start from the develop the National Tourism Development Plan in 1998 and National Tourism Marketing Plan in 1999. National Tourism Development Strategy in 2001 to 2020. The Lao government has carried out the policy for development and promote the cultural, natural, and historical tourism, aiming at contributing to the socio-economic development, especially to alleviate the and eradicate poverty in the country, because our country is the least developed country still. Yeah. And the policy for community based is the government of Laos has placed tourism as one of the national priority in socio-economic development in order to contribute to promote good product, service, employment opportunity, income generation, and improve the livelihood of local community. The project where I'm working for is we have one project for the livelihood promotion and support the community to produce the product to provide the service to the tourists. In 2005, adopted a national economic ecotourism strategy and action plan in 2005 and 2010. In 2012, adopt a national tourism development strategy. 2012 and 20. Now the national tourism, national ecotourism strategy and action plan 2015 and 20. Vision is become a world-renowned destination for sustainable tourism, benefit to natural and cultural heritage, conservation and local socio-economic development, and spread knowledge about Lao culture to the world. This is our government vision. You can see the national ecotourism strategy and action plan is the framework is socio-economic and environmental benefit to rural community, conservation benefit to the NPS, expanding number of ecotourism products and service for the pleasure and enjoyment of national and international tourists. What mean the of the community-based tourism of Laos? The CBT is tourism that take environmental, social, and cultural sustainability into account. It is managed and owned by the community, for the community with the purpose of enabling visitors to increase their awareness and learn about the community and local ways of life. Community-based tourism programs are developed based around special elements of local lifestyle, culture, people, and nature that community member feel proud of and choose share with guests. These 7 provinces in Lao PDR that we promote tourism, like Luang Prabang, but I will not go detail on Luang Prabang because you know that heritage city and is famous for the tourism, for the tourists to be there. Luang Nam Tha province is also we provide ecotourism and ethnic minority that there is about 45 ethnic minorities there. Vang Vieng, you can, it is for the natural resources too, and Boli Kham Sai and Kham Muan also natural resources. So for the Savannah Cave is history and lifestyle, you can visit. Champasak, culture and natural resources. That the most place that tourists they used to come there, to go there. The tourist is now major contribute to the national income is about 7 to 9% GDP. Employment, yeah, that. You can see this tourism attraction statistic, the type of attraction. Natural attraction is about 1,042. Yeah, the number is there, and the activity that you can visit there. Yeah. This is the loop of the tourism. We call the cycle. Who like to ride bicycle or motorbike, and then you can follow this loop. If you go to the Laos. So the achievement of this is about, I show you that in 2016, the visitors to the Laos is about 4 million plus. Yeah. This is proper tourism development. You can see that you can do the weaving, the handicraft, and also dyeing, yeah, from the natural and so culture. Yes. Now I'm going to show you the best practice of for the community-based tourism. We have homestay service at Duang Village, Vientiane province. It's not so far from Vientiane capital. It's about 100 kilometers to go there. But this village from the province is about 4 kilometers away from the center to of Vang Vieng district. The Vang Vieng is also famous of tourism, mainly from Korea and China. Yeah, and now this we call this is the best of the community-based tourism. The other one is homestay service at Na Duang village. Yeah, the activity showing you in the photo that you can. This is the another best practice homestay in Na Duang that number of tourism arrival and revenue. Yeah. In 2006, you can see 323. Yeah, it's quite high for us. The second is Nam Neun Night Safari. This is protected area of the national protected area. Yeah, it's rich in wildlife. So at night you can go by boat and then you just turn off your light and then you can see. Yeah. Then the other is Nam Neun Night Safari also continue. In that we have 5 group provide services. Each group consists about 5 to 10 members. Like we have tour guide group, boat group, cooking group, a campaign group, handicraft group, and for income sharing in quality. Yeah. Like this product in this photo show you the product from the villages. If they sell this product to Luang Prabang night market. If you buy in the Luang Prabang night market, it will be expensive than this will about Yeah. Luang Prabang is higher. The third is treetop explore in Champasak province. This is also famous of the tourists. Yeah, the activity that you can do is, or you can visit a waterfall, jungle hotel, room in the trees, ship cleaning, yeah, trekking, so on. Yeah. Third is the treetop explorer in Champasak too. That you can see more than 20% of its population involved in tourism activity, and additional income is about 150 to 250 person per month. Yeah. There's the women and men gain additional job from this and job and additional income. Tour guide, food provider, labor, and yeah, other opportunity open their own small businesses. Yeah, coffee if you go to Champasak, yeah, it's very very special and good taste for you. And fourth is fish conservation top explorer in Hua Phan province. If this is my project support since now 2005, and now this village is graduated from poverty. So if you go there, you can fish. Fish, it's very big fish, and they can. This project is managed by community themselves. The challenges in our country when you go there is transportation, air and land. So the transportation is, especially if you go to the remote area, it's difficult for you to access to the village, some district, because the road is out of standard, but you can go by truck. Not by truck, by pickup or motorbike or bicycle, it could go. Yeah. There is accommodation. Accommodation is not, it's not in the standard of Asia that tourism is mentioned. Communication also, they are not speak English. They are not, some ethnic minority, they cannot speak Lao. So you need to have translator, and you have to pay for the translator. For the tourism product, also the community, they product by themselves, but it's still low quality. So, and solid waste, of course, you know about that, a lot of green space. If many tourism visit there, and then they slash and burn to produce like rice or food, something like that. And marketing promotion is not widely enough. Involvement of stakeholders is still lack. Yeah. You can see this is our next estimated strategy plan in the future up to 2025. Yeah. What we do for the community-based tourism framework in the future that we do, awareness building for the drug prevention, poverty alleviation, and the local community, conserve cultural and natural heritage that we already have, better cooperation between public and private sector, sustainable use of natural and historic area, gender mainstreaming promotion. Because the women are poor, more work. Yeah, we would like to reduce for women and try them to contribute to our development more. This also the future community-based tourism promotion needed. We provide this kind of bridge. Then we would like to promote, how to say, to promote the fish conservation. Yeah. Then this our plan is need to be promoted in the future and need to develop, to implement for the future for, to be a tourism base. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to our representative from Laos. Once again, I would like to remind our guests to please write down your questions and hand them to our staff who will compile them at the end of the conference. I would now like to invite our next speaker, the representative from Singapore, Mr. Erickson Mok, to give a short presentation about Singapore. Mr. Mok is a business consultant working mainly in distribution and import-export in Singapore. So please join me in welcoming Mr. Erickson Mok to the stage.
Testing. Can you hear me? Good morning. Thumbs up if you can hear me. Good. Honored guests, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me here. Very humbled and very glad to be able to come today to join you. I think Singapore, we just celebrated our last 52nd birthday just last week. And it was a good time for us to take stock and think, how did we get to where we are today? Today I would like to share with you probably the first 3 or 4 decades of our nation and what we have decided to do with regards to our community, with regards to tourism, because that, I think, we can all learn from. We can see a lot of mistakes being made, a lot of mistakes verified, and then we carried on and keep building. So this is Singapore in the 1960s. As you know, we are a port, entry port. So along the Singapore River, that's where everything's developed. The shop houses, everyone goes there for trade. But the rest of the island is really covered with swamps. Swamps are very difficult to work with, very difficult to build up. And with that in mind, in the Singapore independence, Singapore Tourism Board was formed. And tourism was always previously left in the hands of the private people. And you know, we businessmen, we always think about money. And tourism is something that needs a long time to see the fruits of the labor. So, businessmen being businessmen, they can't see that vision, majority of them. And so the government has to step in to take control, to give guidance, to convince the locals what to do. Singapore men being Singapore men, our then minister, they have this plan for Singapore, you know, how to draw people to Singapore. And he was saying, okay, get as many tourists as we can and ensure that they get good value for their money. It was a very simple, very humble vision at the start. It was nothing grand. We just wanted people to come and to help us grow the economy. But of course, that is not enough, as we realized. A good vision comprises of something that all of us should really embody, good values. And how do we want to see Singapore? We want to present a good public image of Singapore, we don't want to only elevate poverty, but we want to give people this good impression of Singapore. What is Singapore's identity? Well, Singapore had really nothing to begin with. No natural resources, no majestic mountains, no seas to dive into. We really had nothing. And we had to build something to portray that image. And so the Merlion you see here, it was part of the Singapore Tourism's board to come up with a plan to inject this identity into Singapore. And as a new nation, you're always very troubled, you know? Life is full of difficult decisions to make, not just as a government, but even personally, you know? And for the government, new nation everywhere needs your attention. So how do you make decisions? How do you make the right decision to focus the very limited resource at this particular right time? You know, interestingly, we tend to see everything in separate boxes. Just now, I was showing you. We break things down into economy, defense, manufacturing, even tourism as its own box. But one particular lesson I feel when I was reviewing Singapore's history was that it doesn't have to be that way. You always can put tourism into an element and synergize with all these other boxes. Maybe it's 50% economy and 50% tourism contributing to the economy. You know, you have to think in terms of synergy. So based on our history, our heritage, we decided that we want to embrace our heritage and use it to portray a certain image to the world. I found this very interesting because, you know, when most countries in the Southeast Asia or many other parts of the world gain independence, the first thing they will want to do is to reject their colonial past. Singapore was a British colony. We did the reverse. We embraced our roots. We told the world that, yes, we were a British colony. And the reason for this was interesting because an economist consultant to the government was saying that, well, you want to build Singapore as a manufacturing hub. How are you going to convince the MNCs of the world to come in and build? How? And back then, the Western world has all these dominant technologies and know-hows, and we had to convince them to come in. So we portray our British roots. We tell them that we are proudly a British colony. We respect rules and regulations. Come in and do business, and we'll treat you well. Defense. So when the British left, they left along with all the army as well. And they had an artillery military base on this island called Belakang Mati. And there was a debate on what to do with this island. Should we continue to keep it for defense purpose? Should we use it as a manufacturing hub? But some men had very good foresight and say that no, in 20 years' time, Singapore will not be what it was. We need spaces for people to enjoy recreational activities. Belakang Mati was the largest flat island that you can find in Singapore. And so the decision to develop it into a tourism hotspot was made. Now we know, we know it as Sentosa. And with land planning, it was particularly tricky because we have all these areas that we cannot touch, right? They provide water to Singapore, Water was precious to us. It is really needed for survival. Thousands and thousands of acres of land in the central catchment area. So the government was thinking what to do. How can we better utilize this land? I mean, we can't touch it. So how can we touch it creatively? And the ministry involved it's called a PUB, the Public Utilities Board, who manages water in Singapore. And the chief back then asked the engineer, can we put a zoo in the water catchment area? The chief engineer was very puzzled. A zoo? Well, it kind of makes sense. You know, you have all these waters. You want something natural to go along with it. And the chief engineer went back to his textbooks and looked up and studied, and you know, there's no precedent for it. How to do it, how to build a zoo there. But through creative solutions, we did it. Singapore Zoo now is one of a popular hotspot for tourists. And with any tourism growth, you always have infrastructure pains. There's always an urgent need to rapidly build up your infrastructure, air, sea, land, roads. And it's very tricky because you can forecast figures, but figures can always go beyond your wildest imagination. So, in 1972, we put in 800 million Singapore dollars, wanting to upgrade the only airport we had back then, Paya Lebar Airport, because we know that majority of the tourists are going to come by air. We should improve it. 2 years later, there were some internal discussions and disagreements between different people in the government. Upgrading the airport is not enough. We need a new airport, and that is one that is not centrally located, but rather at the rims, so that the pollution is kept at one side, the landing is easy. So, 1975, our Prime Minister was convinced to build a new airport. And this was really a big lesson for us because you've already sunk in that amount of resources into upgrading of a current existing infrastructure. 2 years later, you have to write it off. It was a very brave decision. And it's something that we all can learn from. So this is a chart that shows the tourists that arrive to Singapore. You can see the growth. You can see the key highlights happening in the 1960s to the 70s. So yeah, so the Changi Airport decision was made 1975. And you can see the figures keep climbing. Now we proceed to the 1980s and the 90s. It is very pragmatic. Our government is very practical. We always believe that you look after the people by taking care of their basic needs first. And then the tourism comes in, which I feel on hindsight it can be done better. But again, this is something for us to learn from. And one of the things that we really did well was conservation. And conservation is particularly tricky because there's always disputes with the local landlords, your landowners. How do you compensate them? What rate do we compensate them? Are we doing it with our own ideas or with consultation from the locals? And we did both. And how do we do it is actually we start really small. We just start with a few shophouses in Singapore. We upgraded the the sanitation, the drainage, the facade, but we kept the structure. And then we see what how the locals respond and how the tourists respond. And once you have these favorable responses, you can go on to scale, because now you've already got experience to deal with a budget, and then you can roll on and go bigger. Rejuvenation. Singapore River has always been a very essential part of Singapore trade. Many ships come and go, and because of that, it was crazily polluted. So we had to clean up the river, and with these kind of projects, it really takes time. It takes time to see the fruits. So what we did was really a collaboration between many ministries, which is difficult because working with people can often mean the most difficult thing. And different authorities coming together with one vision, which is clean up the river and make sure that everything is properly regulated. So these are the figures from 1980s onwards to the 90s. It's interesting to note that during 1985, there was a financial crisis. Singapore actually experienced its first crisis ever. And every crisis, we say, is an opportunity. And during that moment, we take time to reevaluate our plans. And with every plan in place, it is important to keep note that you must be agile as well. Yes, you have this big vision, but break them down to smaller plans and change when you need to. So for me, I think for the Singapore government, there are some very good lessons learned. Major the majors and the minors will follow. This is what my university lecturer has always told me. You stick to your major, you don't worry too much about the smaller details until the time is right for you to acknowledge them. As I said before, you have a big plan, but often it is very intimidating. But when you break them down into smaller pieces, you find that it's a lot more manageable, a lot more approachable, and your resources are not spread so thin. Of course, you don't give up. Even when you have to write things off, you write things off. Even when you have to restart from scratch, you keep doing it because this vision is worth embracing. This is a particular quote that I really personally like. We have not inherited the land from our fathers, we have borrowed it from our children. I think if we keep this in mind, and we think that, you know what we are doing, we don't own it. We don't own anything. We are protecting it for future generations. We're making it better for them. And so teach them this lesson as well. So with that, I come to the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mok, for your presentation. Very informative. What's more, please write down your questions and hand them to our staff who will be standing along the sides. We will compile them for you at the end of the conference. It is now my pleasure to invite our last ASEAN representative from Vietnam.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm very honored to be invited here today, and we'll have the talk about the community-based tourism in Vietnam. And on the behalf of our team, I will present the overview community-based tourism in Mekong Delta region of Vietnam. My focus on the Mekong Delta regions. Our presentation is including some main part, introduction, and I will give some information about how to understand the CBT in Vietnam and overview CBT in Vietnam, And I will supply some information, 2 case studies in Mekong Delta region. And we then move to the part of main advantages and challenges in developing CBD in Vietnam, and then conclusion. Vietnam is a beautiful country with many advantages, landscapes, long-standing history, and diverse natural environments and geography, diversified culture. And we have the great potentialities for developing the CBD tourism, and it contributing to the national socio-economic growth. And we have many kinds of tourism, and in which one of which is community-based tourism, a very important part of tourism development. We understand CBD as involves communities controlling, managing, and developing their own tourism industry, whereby tourists and travelers can experience the community ways of life and consider their social, economic, and environmental impacts upon the destination they are visiting. Within that, the local community is the core part of CBD, and whereby the local communities, they are involvement, honest management, and conserve ecosystem, natural resource, environment, and local culture. For Vietnamese context, CBD developed very early, since 1980s. From 1990s, we opened the markets, and then tourists come more. Through the time, CBD in Vietnam more developed, and many models throughout the countries, and CBD contributing to the local communities, such as strengthening and promoting local culture, improving income and living standard of local people. Some main activities and services of CBD in Vietnam, such as homestay. The tourists can come to the local house to visit in their beautiful house and garden, experiencing the daily life of the local community, selling the local products and local handicraft, transportation, supply the traditional food, and teaching how to cook Vietnamese food, and traditional music performing. And we have some program, 1 day or 2 days becoming the farmer. So we have the many cases of CBD throughout the countries, and depend on the advantage of the tourism resources. For example, in the north, we have the diversified minorities with unique culture and very beautiful landscape. The center is focused on the many world culture heritage and beautiful landscape also. In the south part of Vietnam, we have the unique landscape focused on agriculture and aquaculture, and the local people are very friendly. Now we move to the Mekong Delta region. Mekong Delta region in Vietnam is located in the south of Vietnam. Everybody knows that the Mekong River runs through the China, Myanmar, Laos, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam before it runs to the sea. And in the Vietnamese countries, the Mekong region comprise 13 provinces and cities, and it makes a very unique landscape on the agriculture and aquaculture. And in this region now, you can see a lot of battlefields in our country. Then we move to the 2 case studies that are located in this region. The first case in the Tiền Giang province, and the second case in the Cần Thơ city. We move to the first case in Tiền Giang province, and we focus on the very small island of Tiền Giang province. This small island is very near Ho Chi Minh City, just 70 kilometers far from, and total area is about 1,000 hectares. And the main CBT activity here is that the local farmer, they organize by themselves to supply the activity and service for tourists. And this model started very early, since 1990s. maybe one of the first model of CBT in Vietnam, in Mekong Delta region also. The main activity here is the tourists come to the local house to visit their house and enjoying the green landscape, beautiful old house, experiencing the living style of local people. The local people also supplying the services of motorboat and rowboat, coconut candy making. Operator will be bring the tourists to their community. So the main issues of this case I would like to focus is, let me show you some picture first. This is the old house of our region and the rowboat. The tourists can enjoy the green landscape here. And can you figure out us? Oh, this is a coconut candy making. The traditional music performance. And also the music performance at night when the tourists spend homestay. And the main problem of this guy I would like to focus is the big gap between the local community and the outside stakeholder. So we saw that as our research outcome, the local community just received 6% to 23% of revenue per tourist, and the rest one is leaked out of the local regions. The second case, I would like to focus on the Cần Thơ city. And the location is also very small island. It's very small, just only 200 hectares and 79 households. And their main income is based on the agriculture also. And in this model, the local household, they established the cooperation team under the management of the local authority, and each household will in just one service or activity of CBT. And this model is started very recently, since 2016. And some activity here such as homestay, meal supply, food cooking, visit garden, rowboat, big boat, also visiting fish farming and traditional local handicraft. And for the meal supply, for example, when we have lunch, we have a lot of kind of the food, and each kind of the food will be supplied by one household, cooked by one household, and then they will gather in together one big house or one common house, and then enjoy the lunch together. These figures illustrate how they organize, and you saw that we have the representative of local authority here, and this person will be in charge to connect with the tourists, to connect with the tour operator, to make the promoting and advertising to attract the tourists and bring the tourists to the local community. And at the local community, they have the team, corporate team, and they divide the duty for each household to supply the services for the tourists. And here we have some data very new. From August 2016 until April 2017, the number of tourists and the tourism revenues increased rapidly recently. There are some pictures. This is how to make the traditional Vietnamese food. Traditional cake. The tourists there. This is fish farming. Also the food making, the handicraft. And the foreigners, the practice how to make the traditional Vietnamese food. So then we move to the next part. This is the advantages and challenges of developing CBT in Vietnam. Regarding to the advantages, we have the many potential in natural and cultural resources. And the local community is very friendly and want to implement the CBT. And CBT will have to increase in the income and improve the living standard of local community. And we have the high demand of tourists. However, there are still many challenges. And among them, the most important challenge I would like to mention here is the low capability of local community and the unbalanced sharing among stakeholders and also among the local community also. We have the many cases throughout the country implemented the CBT, and we synthesize that some successful factors of CBT in Vietnam. We should have the active participation of local communities in planning and managing, empower the capacity for local community, and we should build a strategic partner with the market, for example, tour operator, developing the unit tourism products, increasing cultural value of local community, and satisfy the tourist needs. And we have to ensure the equality in profit sharing among the stakeholders and among the local communities. In conclusion, CBT is the right tendencies of the regional countries in Vietnam as well. And Vietnam had many advantages. However, we also have the many challenges. We need to have the good mechanism in planning and managing for sustainable development CBD in Vietnam for the long term. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much again for a very informative talk about the situation in Vietnam. Thank you. I would now like to open the floor to questions for all of our speakers. So one more time, just to help refresh your memory. So we heard representatives today from Malaysia, Myanmar, Laos, Singapore, and Vietnam. So remember those questions you wrote down. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask our speakers now. Please.
Speech on the Vietnam case. It's very well organized, and my question is very simple. And like I said yesterday, we have succession problems because we started CBT almost 20 years ago. So first generation getting old, and then but in rural areas, the young people just gone out of the community, never coming back. So the succession is very serious issues. Yeah, they are doing well now, but in the future, no prospect for successors. So that is a big issue. And what about the succession issues? But I wonder, is there any such kind of issues in Vietnam, or not yet?
Yeah, thank you for your information. In the Vietnamese context, also have the same issue with yours. The young generation, they move out to the city and they would like to become the worker or the officer, and they would like to work in the air conditioned, air fresh environment. However, in recently, some young labor, they recognize their potential, their, how I say, they want to back to their homeland because the life will be more easier than the city. Yeah. In the Ho Chi Minh City now, it's very fight and hard work. We have to compete each other a lot. So when we back to our hometown, it's more easy for living condition. So some of them, they tend to back. So maybe we have the problem, but we have the way to think about, yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Also for Vietnam, you mentioned that the participants for the CBT receive only 6% to 20% of the income. So where are the other percent go?
Where the rest one will be come to the tour operator or some outside stakeholder. For example, the transportation or something like that. Outside stakeholder, not the local community. The local community, when we compare the total revenue, they just get very small benefit.
So it means that the CBT is controlled by the outside, like tour operators or outside companies, right?
Yeah, our first case studies, very long, maybe more than 20 years developed. And we face the problem that the outside stakeholder may be dominant and they make the pressure on the local community. And the local community, they don't have the power to negotiate with the outside stakeholder, then they get very low benefit.
Because this is one of the reasons why the community does not participate in this kind of activities, because they don't get enough income. That is also my question for Myanmar. Does the government organize this kind of CBT projects like Vietnam, and what are the challenges?
And for the governments, we took, as on my presentation, we took a commercial viability for marketing and branding. This because local people cannot persuade they did not do any branding. So we took this responsibility. On this challenge, actually, we organize fair trade and we participate in the international trade fairs. It is very important for the commercial viability. So according to my experience, it's a budget, because budget constraint. Because to participate in the international conference and international tourism trade fair, it will cost about over $200,000 to present our CBD, to introduce our CBD site at this international trade fairs.
So the government provides free transportation to take the tourists to your CBT areas, right?
No.
No?
No, we just organize as a fan trick for the national tour operator, medias, and stakeholder to introduce our CBT site, because this is a coordinator between ground handler on the grass level at the CBT site and to the international traveler.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, good morning. I'm from Cambodia. My question goes to Vietnam. I think it's my concern. It's the same to a professor from Philippines. The income of the local community is very low. Is there any action from the government part to control? Because I think your CBT was created for long times, and then the income of the local community itself, it's very low. How people survive? I mean, is there any policy from the government part? Thank you.
Thank you very much for your interesting question. For Vietnamese case, the main income of local community also based on the agricultural products. Yeah, and tourism activity is another kind of activity. They get more income. So CBT bring them more income than before. So at least they also feel, okay, I feel good for this kind of activity. But when we have the outside, we have the general picture, and we saw that this is the unbalanced sharing. So we recognize that. So thank you. Maybe from the government viewpoint, yeah. How I say, maybe I will answer you later.
No
Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So for the Philippines, like I presented yesterday, the Philippines has many islands, right? One of the main problem is traveling. If you go to the Philippines, you have to take the plane or the ships to travel to another island. So that is the problem of traveling tourism in the Philippines. So instead of supporting the CBT, we have only few CBT projects in the Philippines. So instead of the government supporting the CBT, they give education to people in the islands. So when you're educated, where do you work? You don't work in the village. You go to the city, you go to the capital, you go abroad to work. So that's why CBT is not that very popular. We have CBTs, but not very popular. Okay? That answers the question?
Thank you.
Okay, welcome.
Can I give some information? For our first case, that is the local people, they want to involve in CBT and they organize by themselves. So that's why they have to deal with the problem in negotiation with the outside stakeholder. I think the local community, they have to, by themselves, empower their capacity to have the negotiate more benefit for them, I think so. And the government, they also have create a good environment for doing business there. I think it's a very good policy from the government side. And in the local level, the local community, they also have to do something for them, for their region, for sustainable development.
Thank you.
Thank you very much to all of our speakers. I know everybody's very excited to continue this discussion, so we will continue the discussion, but first let me invite everybody to take a short break, 15 minutes. I would like to ask everybody to return to this room at 11:20. If our guests in the 2 front rows could please follow our staff out to the break area and return at 11:20. After the coffee break, we will have a roundtable discussion with representatives from all of the countries. So we will continue the discussion. Thank you very much.